Let's talk about concrete. Think about it for a second. It is quite literally the foundation of our modern world. The bridges, the skyscrapers, the homes, we don't even give it a second thought. And why? Because we trust it. We just assume it's going to be solid, permanent, and most of all, safe.
Every single day, you and I, we put our faith in these massive structures. When you walk into a high-rise building or drive through a tunnel, you're making this unspoken agreement, a pact of trust with the engineers, the builders, the materials themselves. It's the contract that holds our whole built environment together.
And when that happens, the results are absolutely catastrophic. The very thing we count on for strength and stability can fail in an instant, turning a symbol of our ingenuity into a scene of utter disaster. You see, when concrete crumbles, it is so much more than just an engineering problem. It's a human tragedy. And to really understand why these things happen, we have to first look at the devastating cost and the tough lessons that these tragedies have taught us. Take the Harbor K condominium in Florida, back in 1981. A 5-story building, still under construction, just pancakes. 11 people lost their lives, 23 more were injured. Those aren't just statistics, those are families and lives shattered in a moment. And this wasn't some freak, one-off event. Just 10 years earlier, in Boston, it was a similar heartbreaking story. A 16-story apartment building collapses. You start to see a pattern here, a recurring nightmare in our construction history. The thing is, buildings don't usually fail in silence. There are almost always warning signs. Forensic engineer Dov Kamenetsky put it perfectly when he was investigating a collapse. He said the bending and the cracking, those were cries for help from the structure. Wow, the building itself was trying to tell us something was horribly wrong. So that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Why does this happen? Well, it's almost never one single thing. It's more like a slow-motion train wreck, a chain reaction of mistakes, shortcuts, and oversights that just keep piling up until the whole thing can't take it anymore. So let's do this. Let's get into the weeds and dissect one of these failures. We're going to use the 2000 Commonwealth Avenue collapse as our case study, because honestly, it's a textbook example of how a bunch of small mistakes can cascade into total disaster.
Just look at this list. It's staggering. From the very beginning with the paperwork all the way to the concrete mix itself, almost every single step of the process had a major flaw. It wasn't one thing that went wrong, it was pretty much everything. It's a tragic illustration that a collapse is rarely a single event, but a death by 1,000 cuts.
Now, the technical term for what kicked off the collapse is punching shear. The best way to picture it is to imagine pushing your thumb right through a piece of cardboard. That's basically what a support column did to the concrete floor slab. Without the strength and support it needed, the column just punched a hole, and then everything else came down like dominoes.
And if you're looking for the smoking gun, well, here it is. The concrete itself was dangerously weak. It was designed to handle 3,000 pounds per square inch of pressure, but when they tested some of the samples from the site, they clocked in as low as 700. That's like trying to build a house with bricks held together by wet sand. It was doomed from the start.
Okay, so we've seen the absolute nightmare scenario. Now let's flip the script and talk about why this doesn't happen every day. Let's look at the unseen shield that makes our buildings so incredibly strong. Reinforced concrete. When it's done right, it's nothing short of an engineering marvel.
See, concrete by itself is kind of like a one-trick pony. It's fantastic at resisting being squeezed. That's called compression. But try to stretch it or pull it apart, put it in tension, and it just snaps. It's incredibly brittle. That's concrete's big weakness.
So what's the fix? Well, it's actually genius in its simplicity. You embed steel bars, what we call rebar, right inside the concrete. Steel is the exact opposite of concrete. It's amazingly strong when you pull on it. So the steel handles the pulling forces, the concrete handles the squeezing forces, and together they become this super material that can do both. And that's the crucial point. It's not just a matter of mixing some concrete and throwing in some steel. It has to be a precise, disciplined process. There's a blueprint for safety, a right way to do it.
When you boil it all down, it comes down to these 4 critical pillars. First, you build a strong mold, the formwork. Then you place that steel skeleton, the reinforcement, exactly where it needs to go. Next, you pour the concrete and make sure there are no air bubbles. And finally, you let it cure properly so it gets up to its full strength.
Now let's connect this right back to that Boston collapse. Remember one of the key mistakes on that huge list? Insufficient length and placement of rebar. The steel skeleton, the very part that's supposed to handle all the pulling forces, was messed up from the get-go.
And this is what it's supposed to look like. See that? A meticulously organized grid of steel, all tied together. The bond between these steel bars and the concrete that surrounds them is absolutely everything. If that bond gets messed up because of dirt or rust or just bad placement, the whole system gets weaker. And here we see the next step done right. A clean, well-organized pour. After the concrete is poured, it has to be consolidated, usually with a big vibrator to shake out all the air pockets and make sure it fills every nook and cranny around that steel skeleton. That's how you prevent weak spots.
And underpinning all of this, like a safety net, is just relentless quality control. This part is completely non-negotiable. Every single step has checks and balances. Mix designs are approved, materials are tested, forms are inspected. It's a chain of custody for quality, and every single link in that chain has to be strong.
So, after all that, what are the big lessons we've learned from the rubble? In a way, the whole field of structural engineering has been built on the foundation of its own failures. Every single collapse, as tragic as it is a vital lesson.
You can actually see this learning process in action over the years. Ronan Point taught us we need fail-safes, structural redundancy. Hartford taught us not to blindly trust computer models and to listen to those cries for help. Harbor K was a brutal reminder to always check the basic math. And Sampong, well, Sampong showed us that sometimes the failure isn't technical at all, but ethical, rooted in corruption and greed.
And that really brings us to the most important point. Studying why things break is how we study the history of engineering itself. It's not about pointing fingers, it's about learning. Every twisted piece of steel, every slab of broken concrete holds a lesson. These failures are the tough teachers that force us to write better codes, to improve our methods, and ultimately to rebuild the trust that holds our entire world together. The real challenge isn't just learning these lessons, it's making sure we never ever forget them.